on that reporting system. That's just my opinion. Board members' delayed review of permanent CPRB staff positions. Investigators and confidential secretaries are necessary for the office to run smoothly. So board members' delayed review of the permanent CPRB staff positions submitted by the program director days after he started. No office staff will be onboarded before my position ends. Board members have also included local reporters on emails discussing internal CPR business. In preparing meeting minutes, I was stunned by board members allowing CPRB independent counsel Kevin Canacero to speak to Common Council Representative Jake Island in such an unprofessional manner at the July 10th meeting when discussing amendments to the bylaws that limited the program director's duties. Board members requested an audit of the CPRB without advising CPR staff and have not provided the outcome. This is my biggest concern. My biggest concern is what I perceive as board members misleading the community. From my vantage point, the board is not in danger of losing their independence, but has consistently accused the Common Council and the program director of attempting to sabotage board operations and to dilute their power. Enlisting community organizations, local community leaders to side with the CPRB based on false information. The reason I say this is because I believe trust, transparency, and accountability are key. In order to safeguard the trust and credibility of the CPRB, board members must be transparent in all of their public interactions and hold themselves accountable for any misinformation or misinterpretation that is shared with the community. The CPRB members are Albany residents, and their voices must represent the community they serve. I didn't realize, this is another thing for me, I didn't realize that the independent counsel were members of the board. I have seen independent counsel consistently questions and interferes with CPRB in operations, defames the program director, and accuses city employees of obstructing the board's work. First of all, I'm not here to point fingers. Not first of all, 14th of all. I'm not here to point fingers or to place blame on any of the stockholders or the shareholders or the board members. I'm speaking out to shed light on the grassroots work that was done by community leaders and community members who came together to get the CPRB to where it is now. Many Albany residents fully support the CPRB and will make and have made public statements at Common Council meetings to stand up for the board whenever the board asks them to. That's the reason I'm speaking out. Transparency is a two-way street. The CPRB must continue to be transparent, accountable, and work diligently to uphold the principles of credible police oversight, because that is what the community voted for. It has always been my belief that every community is entitled to a fully functioning, effective, and transparent oversight board to ensure public safety. The Albany CPRB has exemplified those principles in the past, and I hope that it will continue. My unique perspective is based on experiencing the CPRB as a former member and now as an employee. On a personal level, I just want to take a minute to honor the Albany residents, including the board members. I also want to commend Common Council, community leaders, and city officials who worked tirelessly to give the CPRB more power and new administrative oversight. To me, it is disconcerting to think the commitment made by so many to sustain the CPRB seems irrelevant in this moment. I am no longer optimistic for the future of the current CPRB. In my opinion, the resources and the guidance that the city has implemented, along with the Common Council's oversight to the CPRB, is a good way forward, in spite of the challenges. I also understand that serving as a member of the CPRB, especially serving as chair, can be extremely difficult and extremely rewarding at the same time. I have the deepest respect for all the board members, past and present. Therefore, I don't want to give the impression that I'm not grateful to the CPRB and the city for the opportunity to work with the board that I revere. I'm fearful that the dissension that I have witnessed and the refusal to work as a team, if not resolved, will impact the community adversely. So I want to end with this, and I thank you for your indulgence. This is from the NACO, the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement. This is one of their, a portion of their ethics code. Conduct investigations, audits, evaluations, and reviews with diligence, an open mind, an open and questioning mind, integrity, objectivity, and fairness in a timely manner, rigorously testing the accuracy and reliability of information from all sources, present the facts and findings without regard to personal beliefs or concern for personal, professional, or political consequences. I really thank you guys for letting me speak this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Morris.
Thanks.
Next is Tashawn Murdoch.
Good evening. So, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Tashawn Murdoch. I'm the Executive Director for the Center for Law and Justice. I wanted to speak this evening about the ongoing issues between the Albany Common Council and the Community Police Review Board. The Community Police Review Board, or the CPRB, was created to bring accountability, transparency, and trust between the Albany Police Department and the community it serves. It was born out of the struggle and advocacy of community members who demanded justice, oversight, and a fair system that reflects the voices and experiences of the people. At the heart of the movement was Dr. Alice Green, a tireless advocate who fought for decades to ensure that ordinary citizens had a seat at the table when it came to police oversight and reform. Dr. Green believed deeply in the purpose of the CPRB. She saw it as a vital tool for justice, a bridge between the community and law enforcement, and a pathway towards restoring trust and accountability. Her vision was never about power or politics. It was about people. It was about ensuring that the truth could be spoken and that concerns could be heard and that progress could be made even when it was difficult. Right now, we are at a moment that vision is being tested. The tension and disagreements between the Common Council and the CPRB risk overshadowing the purpose of the work that so many, including Dr. Green, dedicated their lives to. Disagreement itself is not the issue, in fact. Dr. Green welcomed spirited debate, as many of us know. But she also believed that disagreement must lead somewhere, that it must bring about positive discourse, creative solutions, and ultimately actions that serves the public good. What Albany needs right now is not more division, but a renewed commitment to unity. The people of this city deserve leadership that models collaboration, accountability, and respect. They deserve to see both the council and the CPRB work together, not as opponents, but as partners in the fight for justice and community trust. Out of respect for Dr. Green's legacy and her lifelong advocacy for the CPRB, we must move forward with intention and purpose. We must recommit to the mission of the CPRB, to represent the people, to ensure fairness, and to promote transparency within our systems. Her work reminds us that this board was created not for personal agendas, but for the people of Albany, for those who for far too long, have had and been felt unseen, unheard, and unprotected. Let us honor her legacy, not with conflict, but with collaboration. Let us continue her work by bringing solutions to the table and keeping our eyes on what truly matters: justice, equity, and accountability. Dr. Green believed that change was possible when good people work together. Let's not lose sight of that truth now. The work of the CPRB, and I want to be clear, must continue, focused, undistracted, and united, because that is what this community deserves, and that is the only way to honor the vision and the passion of Dr. Alice Green. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murdoch. I believe the next comment has to do with the complaint, so. Yeah, okay, all right. So we're going to move on now. That's it for public comment? Nobody on? Okay, all right. We're going to move on to communication from the City of Albany. Commander Maury, would you like to speak?
Good evening, everybody, and thank you all for coming. I apologize to those I didn't say hello on the way, and I was running a little late today. That includes you, Garrett. My apologies. I do not have anything new from OPS to report to the board members that we haven't already spoken about. I am happy to be here. Normally, Lieutenant Ritty is here, and while he will be back for next month's meeting, I thank you all for having me here. I am glad to be here. I'm of assistance, and I'm available if anybody wants to contact me with anything further regarding their cases tonight that they don't want to speak about publicly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Board member announcements. Are there any announcements? Dr. V?
Yes, I have a statement, Chair Santos, if it's okay to proceed.
Yes.
Good evening, board members and members of the public. My name is Dr. Vanelia Harden, and I have had the honor of serving on the Albany Community Police Review Board, the CPRB, since 2016. The CPRB is a collective body of dedicated individuals working to transform the narrative around policing in our city. Our mission centers around three key pillars: transparency, accountability, and trust. These principles cannot be achieved in isolation or by any single person. They require collaboration, courage, and continuous community engagement. Over the years, the CPRB has achieved a number of significant milestones that have strengthened civilian oversight and community confidence in Albany. These accomplishments include, but are not an exhaustive list, changing our name from the Albany Citizens Review Board under the leadership of Ivy Morris to the Albany Community Police Review Board to better reflect our mission and scope, developing a discipline matrix to promote fairness and consistency in addressing police misconduct, introducing the CPRB members to new police recruits, fostering early awareness of civilian oversight, identifying best practices in mediation, and hiring professional mediators to support constructive resolution processes. Establishing a working relationship with Albany Police Department leadership to address critical incidences and community concerns in real time, implementing a confidentiality agreement which allows board members to review complaints remotely while maintaining the integrity and security of sensitive information, reviewing high-profile cases prior to media coverage to ensure an objective and informed perspective, partnering with community-based organizations to educate and engage the public about CPR initiatives, hiring expert professionals Rania, Russell, and Andrew in the field of professional oversight to professionalize the structure and operations of the board, obtaining independent legal counsel to effectively exercise subpoena power and compel compliance during investigations, advocating successfully for an increased budget to expand our operational capacity and enhance our community outreach. CPRB was also the recipient of the Ned Patterson Award for the New York Civil Liberties Union, Capital Region Chapter in 2023. This award is given to individuals or groups that have made significant impact on civil liberties in the region. CPRB has also, for the first time ever, been invited to participate in 2 National Association for Civilian Oversight law enforcement panels. In 2024 and 2025, CPRB was asked and participated in those panels, which is a testament to Albany's growing reputation in the field of civilian oversight. This year, in 2025, the CPRB reached several additional milestones that underscore our progress and commitment. Despite being a board of just 6 active members, we accomplished an extraordinary amount of work. During April and May, we hired an administrative assistant and program director, enabling the official opening of our office at 175 Central Ave. We passed several bylaws revisions, strengthened local law D, preserving our autonomy and ensuring the CPRB's long-term sustainability. We authorized our independent investigative unit to issue subpoenas during monthly meetings since January 15. Since January, 15 interviews have been conducted as part of that ongoing investigation. Our community outreach chair collaborated with the Albany Police Department administration to serve as a liaison during community crises, fostering dialogue and understanding. Submitted job descriptions to the City of Albany's Human Resource Department to fill 3 additional positions of the senior investigator, confidential secretary, critical roles to support our expanding responsibilities. We've also engaged in numerous consultations with the community members regarding actions and initiatives involving Albany Police Department. And finally, as of this evening's meeting, CPRB has reviewed approximately 30 complaints have been closed since we began conducting our monthly case reviews this year. These collective achievements represent not only the dedication of current and past board members, but also the commitment of previous staff, city partners, and community stakeholders who share our vision of accountable, transparent, and community-centered policing. As we move forward, the CPRB remains deeply committed to building upon this foundation, strengthening oversight, fostering trust, and ensuring that every resident of Albany feels seen, heard, and protected. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Dr. Hardin. Any other board member announcements? No? Okay. Report from the chair. Actually, I did have a report, but the CPRB received a letter late this afternoon which kind of addressed some of the subjects that I had in the report. So I'm going to refrain from reading that report so that they don't bump heads, because some of the answers are right in the report that I was going to give. We're going to go on to CPRB committee reports. I'm in charge of bylaws, and there are no new proposed bylaws. Community outreach, Paul, do you have a report?
Yeah, I don't have to hold it. All right, cool. Yeah, so as far as outreach, there's been a couple of things going on. There's some events that I've been invited to from different organizations, and I've offered my availability, waiting to book dates and times to see what that looks like. Very much interested in how we can support groups that are vulnerable or organizations that want to partner to spread our message and our information. And I'll forward, like I said, those dates and times as they become available and solidified. In addition to that, there are current events, ongoing situations that happen that I respond to, one of which we should have received a complaint about today, but I work with people on the ground through their crisis and what's going on to kind of help as best as possible. And we've been in discussion about that. The board's been super supportive, and we've been able to move forward pretty quickly in the time that it was needed. So I very much appreciate everyone on the board being active and making sure that we get the ball rolling on things. And that effort has definitely been appreciated by the community. I have families who are very appreciative that, we show up on demand and we're there to help them through the process. In addition, I have a couple of student government classes that also want to talk about civic engagement and social responsibility. Again, those dates haven't been set for this semester yet, but we're looking at a couple of different schools. And so as those become available as well, I'll forward those to everybody and we'll see, who wants to join in. And that's what we have coming up this next couple months.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Next report is from Investigations. John Lewandowski.
Thank you. In the past 4 months, since we resumed reviewing complaints during our monthly meetings, we have closed 29 complaints, counting tonight's caseloads, including 1 full independent investigation completed by our independent investigators. Julie and Mark Gleason from T&M USA, thank you very much for that. The CPRB, along with APD's OPS unit, also categorized 8 complaints so far this year yeared as out of jurisdiction, and we connected those complaints with the appropriate administrative authorities. This year, the CPRB, in conjunction with our contract investigators, T&M, interviewed over 15 Albany Police Department officers as related to independent investigations. This is unprecedented for the city, its department, and this body. The CPRB recently received a case file from a June 2022 officer-involved shooting from the Albany Corporation Council. These materials have been requested by investigation unit for several years now. Thank you to TMN for being so dogged on securing the investigation materials. We have made many gains in laying legal infrastructure for the CPRB, as we are aware that with growth comes change. The future hiring of the senior investigator, confidential secretary working directly out of the office at 175 Central Avenue was part of this. This will enhance the assistance and work capacity we can provide the community by maintaining these full-time positions. Here in the heart of Albany, we anticipate greater turnaround with complaint time and fast tracking, and as well as the confidential paperwork to be properly maintained by this confidential secretary. We have done we have done this with just our 6 volunteers and the resources during this tenuous transition period, both before and prior to our incorporation to the city structure starting this year. The community can be assured that the volunteers on this board are committed to our oath that we have always worked to maintain the safety of the community and foster respect and community relationship with the Albany Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lewandowski. On to old business. Mr. Lewandowski, you have a
Yes.
complaint?
Hold on one second. Hold on one second, sorry. There we go. Yep, I got it. Yes, this is just reference with regards to, so old business, it's CC 2024-047. I mistakenly made the motion to concur. It was to state that we are concurring with the stand of unsustained, but the actual sustaining was unfounded. I would like to make an amend to that motion. I misspoke. I apologize by saying unsustained rather than unfounded. To concur with OPS's finding, we would need to find for unfounded. So I'm making a motion that we adjust the finding to reflect the actual finding and correct the words of unsustained to not unfounded. I'm making a motion to make that change. Do I get a second? Second by Batman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous?
Yes. Okay, that's it?
Yep.
That's the only one you have,
That's
right?
the only one I got. Yeah.
Okay. We're going to continue with old business. Jeez, I can't see. Okay. Oh, there was a mishandling of an excuse of a board member, Victor Person. The program director noted this in the posted meetings dated 9/11/25. Board member Person was absent due to family matter out of town. This was an approved and valid excuse for not attending the August monthly meeting. So can I have a second to make that amendment?
Second.
Okay, all in favor to make that amendment?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous, thank you. There also was, let me see. Also, at the 9/11 meeting, there was no formal motion to approve the monthly minutes of the August monthly meeting. I believe it's proper to revote to accept the minutes for the August monthly meeting. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. On to new business. The CPRB would like to announce that they have a new board member named Mr. Malik Dare, who was appointed by Common Council and accepted the position of board member on 9/17/25. Yeah, 25. We welcome Mr. Dare to the CPRB, and we are sure he will be an asset. We're hoping to gather sooner rather than later to have a team welcome and introduce ourselves and make him comfortable in his new role. So, Mr. Malik, would you like to say anything?
Hey, everybody. I'm happy to be here and be part of the board. Since I joined the board less than a week ago, I'll be abstaining from voting tonight, but I'm excited to get started, and I'm looking forward to working with you all.
Thank you very much. Moving on to other new business, we're going to accept revisions to the headings, the removal of the GLC logo, and replace the CPRB City of Albany logo on 8 forms utilized by the CPRB to inform complainants of status of submitted citizens' complaints. The complaint forms are notification of complaint review, notification of OPS complaint number and detective assignment, notification complaint received, notification of closure withdrawn complainant, notification of closure out of jurisdiction, notification of closure CPRB reviewed APD, notification of closure CPRB reviewed complainant, and the actual complaint form. Can I have a motion to change from the GLC logo and replace it to the City of Albany logo on 8 forms?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, it's unanimous. Also on new business, there was a meeting. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. There was a meeting regarding the disciplinary matrix. The meeting was held at APD headquarters, and it consisted of Chief Cox, Commander Maury, Vice Chair Lewandowski, and myself. We had an in-depth discussion about the disciplinary matrix, and if everybody remembers, that matrix was actually formulated during the time Chief Hawkins was in office. So now that Chief Cox has moved into office, we had to give him ample time for review to make sure that he is, he feels consistent with the changes and the disciplinary matrix as proposed. He was on board. It was a great meeting. A lot of details were shared, and it was a favorable meeting. So at the current time, Chief Cox has the disciplinary matrix. He does have a few small recommendations that he would like to make. Once the recommendations are finalized, it will be given back to the CPRB for final review and then sent back to APD. Once our final review sent back to APD so that the union can take a look, check, review, and hopefully pass.
Be incorporated.
Yeah, be incorporated, my apologies, be incorporated. We're hoping that this will be done soon. I mean, it'll take a little while, a couple of months, but we're hoping for the rollout soon of the disciplinary matrix. And we're hoping that together the CPRB and APD can introduce the disciplinary matrix to the community. We're going to move on. Oh, one last thing. Myself and Dr. Hardin attended the Governor Hochul's public safety reception at the Governor's Hall, at the Governor's Mansion on 9/19/25. It was a great event, a lot of commingling with the public and police officials. It was really a nice time. Dr. V, did you want to add anything?
No, thank you, Chair Santos.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to go on next to the review of complaints. John?
Yes, Mr. Lawrence, could you come up, please?
Good evening, everybody.
Hello. All right, we have a bunch on the docket today. We're gonna start with CC 2021-016. And this, Dr. Hardin says, the complaint, your complaint as well.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Lewandowski. I'm going to defer to our monitor report of Al Lawrence, and I'll proceed with any questions from there.
Thanks. In this matter, a bystander called 911 when he saw a man unconscious behind the wheel of a car at Knox Street and Madison Avenue. Emergency medical crews arrived first and aroused the man, but summoned police, they said, when the man said that the car that he was sitting in was not his own. An officer by the name of Hakkinen was the first to arrive and attempted to question the man, but he got out of the car and insisted that he was doing nothing wrong and wanted to leave. The officer grabbed him by the arm, and the two scuffled. In the process, the officer's body camera apparently fell to the ground, and it blacked out for a considerable period, but you can still hear the audio, and you can hear the man continue to protest that he had done nothing wrong and should be allowed to leave. OPS took statements from 3 firefighters who were on the scene, and they attempted to assist the officer in restraining the man, and at one point the man began to yell that his arm had been broken and that he was in pain. A number of other officers arrived, and one of them, Officer Roy, according to his own statement, helped Officer Hakkinen then handcuff the man, although he said he offered little resistance. So one of the paramedics on the scene then attempted to cut through the man's clothing in order to try to treat his arm, but he resisted being helped. And when an officer tried to calm him and tell him that the paramedics were trying to help him, he replied, "No, they broke my arm. I don't want a paramedic." And on the sidelines, Officer Hakkinen tells another officer that someone helping him out had twisted the man's arm. But as he continued to proclaim that he did not want medical treatment, the officers and the EMT personnel belted the man to a stretcher and loaded him into an ambulance and took him to the hospital. At the hospital, he continued to protest that he didn't want to be treated, and eventually he was cleared by a doctor who said that he couldn't be examined. The officers then told him that he was being arrested for obstruction of governmental administration. He was taken to South Station, given an appearance ticket, and allowed to leave. Now, the complainant in this case was not the man and was not the bystander who called 911, but another bystander. And she saw the man, she reported, being handcuffed at the scene as he was complaining about the broken arm, and saw him on the street the following day, his arm still untreated. So she had really two allegations: that the man's arm was broken as the result of excessive use of force, those are my words, by the police, and that he was denied treatment after it was broken. So the original call was that a man was unconscious at the wheel of a car, and when the officer approached him, he tried to leave. He was not in the process of committing a crime at the moment, but the circumstances might suggest that he had driven under the influence of alcohol or drugs and might do so again. As I mentioned, two of the firefighters recalled hearing him say that the car in which he was sitting was not his, but the officer didn't offer that as a reason for taking the man into custody. Courts have given the police a wide latitude to approach and question a police person on the street, even when they don't have probable cause to make an arrest, and also to use some degree of physical coercion if necessary. So I would conclude that it was not inappropriate for the officer to use reasonable force to detain the man to determine whether he was under the influence of an intoxicating substance and whether he had been driving the car. Now, it's a more difficult question to determine whether the force that was used was reasonable. The man was taken to the ground and his hands put behind him by an officer and at least one of the firefighters, and he began to complain that his arm had been broken. And the officer recalled hearing a pop during this encounter. He maintained at the scene to another officer that it wasn't he who had twisted the man's arm, but someone who had come to help him. And that seems to be substantiated by the fact that the man himself declared that he didn't want the help of paramedics because they had broken his arm. Since the scene can't be viewed by camera footage and it cannot be determined whether it was a police officer or another individual who applied the force and twisted his arm, then I would conclude that the allegation of excessive use of force in subduing the man is not sustained and cannot be proven one way or the other. It is clear that the man vociferously denied treatment for the arm both at the scene and at the hospital, and I think the complainant's suggestion that the man was denied treatment should be considered unfounded. The complainant did not make this allegation, but I would suggest that the circumstances present another question concerning the use of force, and that is, once he was subdued and in custody, should he have been forced onto a stretcher, restrained, loaded into an ambulance, and taken to the hospital against his will? No charge had been levied against him at this point, and the man was not sent to the hospital for a mental health evaluation. The department's general orders state that in effecting an arrest when a person is in custody and is experiencing a medical emergency, and the person refuses medical aid, that the booking process shall continue as usual. And if at booking the person refuses medical aid, then he or she should sign a form to that effect, essentially absolving the Department of liability for not treating him. I think Commander Mori is going to tell you that she has a different view of this, and I repeat that this extrapolation of the complaint is my thinking. It was not something articulated by the complainant. But I cannot see a justification for the use of force to compel a legally competent individual who denied treatment and force him to seek that treatment.
Thank you, Monitor Lawrence. I know that I had a few questions for Detective Burns or Commander Maury could answer in terms of this case, and that was surrounding the reason for his arrest. And I just wanted, not just for myself, but the public to understand what was the reason for, or is it illegal or a violation to be sleep in a car?
I
I'm
think it
not
was just
sure.
Detective Adelaide.
Oh, she's not. Okay.
Would Detective Adelaide or yourself be able to answer the question with regards? Okay.
Do you want to take the microphone?
Oh, there you go. Thank you.
All right, good evening. Sorry, am I on? No?
If you want to come around, we'll put you in one of the restrooms over here just so you have a mic.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Am I, okay. I'm sorry, Dr. V, can you repeat the question?
Sure. So the question is, the individual in this case was arrested for obstruction of governmental administration from the report, but it was unclear to me why this arrest was appropriate.
Okay, so as Mr. Lawrence touched on, there was not necessarily a crime that he was arrested for upon officers' arrival. What officers are doing when they first arrive on the scene of most calls, and this one included, is they're in the investigation phase. In that juncture of their time there, they are in the reasonable suspicion area, which means that they have a right and a duty to investigate the circumstances of the call, and then base their determination of an arrest on supplemental information that they gain there or anything else that comes into them. This gentleman was impaired, asleep behind the wheel of a car. If the car is off, parked and off, no, that's not a crime. However, they do have the right to investigate whether or not it was on at any point. So if somebody is observed driving somewhere and parks, they have a right to investigate that as a driving while impaired call. Additionally, with his remark that the car wasn't his, that's a potential larceny investigation. So what they're doing when they first show up is they're asking questions. They have a legal right to do that. If somebody and I don't say somebody, anybody, obviously we have to get to a certain threshold. In this particular case, they had the right to detain this individual, to question him in regards to the circumstances, and because he was refusing to comply with that process, that is where that obstruction charge comes from. He was obstructing their ability to investigate and carry out their government function of investigating a call for service.
And thank you for that clarification, Commander Maury, because as we came to find that because EMT was the first on the scene, the body cam of the officers wasn't, we didn't see that evidence until after the initial stop. So I just want to also clarify that for the board. That was my question. Any questions from board members? Yes.
So I'm kind of confused about the initial interaction. Like, if he was unconscious in his car, okay, cool, that in and of itself is not a crime. To rise to the level of you believed that he was impaired, I'm wondering, was there like a smell of alcohol or empty bottles, something that would give a reasonable suspicion that he was impaired? Because if there wasn't, then we just have a guy sleeping in the car, you know what I mean? And if the call was, hey, there's a guy sleeping in the car, I don't know what's up, I don't understand how that rises to the level of being able to use physical force to detain him.
I believe is that reflected somewhere in the report?
I don't think we have any indication that that alcohol, that
No,
there
there
was
was
an odor
a
of alcohol in
suspicion.
his
It was
breath
not,
or-
it was not clear. The initial call came in, Batman, from someone that they thought someone was overdosed. So that's why EMS was called out to the scene for that suspicion. But there's nothing that we saw that was able to corroborate that. I think my understanding from Commander Maury in terms of how it led to the arrest is answering the call and his ability. He got into a scuffle with the officer that led to the detention, subsequently the obstruction of government administration. Did I say that right, Commander?
Yep.
I guess that's my question. If I'm asleep in my car and I haven't done anything, there's no indication that I'm under the influence of anything whatsoever. If an officer comes up and says, hey, come here, and I say no, I'm now arrested when I didn't commit a crime. There's no reasonable suspicion that I did commit a crime. I'm unsure how we cross the threshold of reasonable suspicion without any evidence on the scene.
No, what you're describing is a completely different scenario than what has been described in the case file. What you're describing, if you're allowed to nap in your car, so if somebody calls and says, there's a gentleman parked on the street, I think he might be overdosing, and emergency services arrive or the police department arrives and they knock on the window and you pop up and you say, oh, sorry, my bad, I was sleeping, I fell asleep, I'm all good, this is my car, then it's gonna say, okay, have a good day, sir, and go about your business. But that's not what happened when they initiated contact with the subject.
So what behaviors did the person have besides not wanting to answer the questions? What behaviors or things did he say that initiated the contact or allowed room for that to happen?
I know that it was referenced in the case file. I don't have the case file memorized, so I can't tell you exactly what his behaviors were, but the officers did indicate, and the EMS personnel did indicate, that he did not seem of the right mind based on their interaction with him. He was not acting like a reasonable person. He was not answering their questions. Other than that, I can't give you an exact quote of what he said.
Okay. Monitor Al, I'm wondering, was there an instance where the officer said he smelled alcohol, or there is, because if the situation is he was asleep, officer came up, hey, what's going on? And he says, hey, leave me alone, I don't want to talk to you. I don't understand how that becomes a basis for arrest.
Well, first of all, the call was from a bystander who was concerned that he was unconscious in the car, not just asleep. And the fire department was there first, and they managed to get him awake. I can't tell you exactly, how much of this information the officer had when he arrived, though. So I'm not sure that, I can satisfy you. But he did know that the call was that a man had been found unconscious in his car. And when he attempted to question him about it, he got up and tried to leave and prevent him from investigating the circumstances any further.
I think just
my
one,
question is,
just one fact I wanted that did come up, Batman, because your question was my question too. That the individual here had indicated to the officer that he was not in his car. So that also changed the circumstance to whether or not, which was noted in this case as to whether or not it was a larceny at that point by the individual's own admission. But as it pertains to whether or not what he was under, that is not completely clear from the officer, and the fact that the individual did deny treatment on scene and at the hospital.
Yeah, that's my biggest concern, is the impetus for the actual arrest. If we didn't have articulable suspicion of intoxication or under the influence, and if fire got there first and said, oh, he seems to be under the influence, okay, cool. But if we're talking about he was unconscious, hey, wake up, I don't want to talk to you, that becoming an arrestable incident is problematic for me. I don't understand that.
Yeah, I would say if somebody's not exhibiting any factors that would lead anybody on scene to believe that they're impaired or they were unconscious, waking somebody up who's unconscious as opposed to waking somebody that's just asleep, those are going to be two different reactions. So these are all factors that are taken into consideration on scene. So yes, what you're describing, if somebody wakes up and they're just asleep and they're not exhibiting any factors of concern as far as their well-being, and they're also very clear that they're in their car, parked in front of their house, and they're looking to just go on their merry way, then I would agree that that would not be an appropriate situation for further investigation. But that's not what the circumstances that we have here.
And we said fire was the first to arrive on the scene and respond and wake him up?
EMS personnel, I would assume the fire department and not the ambulance normally, but medical personnel is what I was told, so I don't want to misspeak.
Okay, I'm wondering, did they have an account of their efforts to wake him that said he seemed to be drowsy or he was slurring his speech? When they woke him up, did they have anything to suggest that he was under the influence?
The medical people did, but to what extent they communicated that to the officer, I don't think we have a clear record of that. The officer told us only that he responded to a call of a man unconscious in his car, and that when he arrived and tried to speak to him, he attempted to get out of the car and leave. So, what beyond that he knew from the firefighters, according to their testimony, they had a lot more information than the officer imparted to OPS in any event.
The firefighters, you mean?
Yes, because they had been there longer, and there were people on the scene. One made a remark to a firefighter that somebody touched a bicycle that was parked on the sidewalk, and that the man went ballistic, or some word like that. But again, I don't know that the officer had that information.
And also, Jazz, just to chime in too, with regards to finding 1 and 3, well, at least 1, it's with regards to use of force by the officer. With regards to the officer, the force used by officer to detain the individual in the car was excessive, resulting in a complaint of broken arm. It's a non-sustained because there was a with regards to, without having the full statement and the body camera, it's not able to be proven. There's 2 other charges. Another one of use of force for compelling to go to the hospital, which is sustained, stating that that wasn't appropriate. And then the final one stating that he was denied medical treatment, but clearly if he was forced to go to the hospital, he was given medical treatment. So with regards to the allegations with this, the initial interaction and whether the officer wasn't able to articulate it, but the fire department was, it doesn't affect the outcomes with regards to the allegations for the report. But I think it's important to note, especially in the past, we've seen obstruction of governmental action used as a blanket, and we want to make sure that by not necessarily in this case, but in other cases, we want to make sure that that's always clear when it is used, because there is a history here and other places where it's used without a more clear justification. So I think that's where.
And to be clear, we've had other cases, and I've had other cases where hospitalizations was threatened, and I question the basis for that. And if we have interactions, I just want to be sure that they're necessary and legal and this, that, and the third. I'm concerned about the vagueness of justifications for physical interactions overall.
Agreed, Batman. Hence the findings of this case too. When and you or anyone else has any questions, that lends to the findings that I concur with the monitor's report here. Did you have anything else, or feel that your question was answered?
That's all I got.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything from any other members, any other questions?
All right, going to vote on the findings for the first allegation. Oh, excuse me, I am so sorry. Is the complainant present? All right, I'll throw that right. Thank you. Going from that, we have 3 allegations. First, allegations of use of force by the officer as excessive with regards to the injury to his arm for the initial interaction. We have a finding for the monitor of not sustained, unable to prove or disprove with regards to the evidence. Do I have, I'm making a motion for not sustained. Do I have a second? All right, Emily has a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I'm a nay for that one.
You're not, you're, okay. And do we have a nay with regards to the first finding of not sustained? All right, 1 nay and 5.
And so just to be clear on the first allegation too, why I agree with not sustained is because of the evidence that we don't know whether it was the officer or the EMS who what happened with resulting in that injury to be able to prove that. That's why I'm going with the monitor and agree with not sustained for that allegation.
All right. Next allegation of use of force by officers, and this is with regard-
Vice Chair Lewandowski.
Oh,
I want to clarify, on the first allegation vote, it was
it was
5 in favor and 1
nay.
against or abstention? Against? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. We're good? All right. Second allegation, use of force by police with regards to having the person transported to the hospital. We have a finding by the monitor of sustained. Do I have a second for that? All right. Emily is second. All in favor of sustained?
Aye.
Yeah, that's unanimous. Third and final allegation for this case, that he was the individual was denied medical care. The finding for this would be unfounded. Do I have a second? Second, Ms. Santos. All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous as well. All right.
Thank you, Monitor Lawrence.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. The next case. This is CC 2022-030.
And Monitor Lawrence, you got a busy night. You can jump right into the next one.
Okay. Yeah, in 2022, the complainant in this matter alleged that generally unnamed police officers had harassed him for 3 years and tried to entrap him in some kind of altercation because of what he called a failed investigation, the nature of which he really couldn't describe. And then in a phone interview with Detective Johnson in OPS, he maintained that this conduct had continued into 2023. He could identify only one officer by name, an officer named Burnham, and the only specific complaint he made is that Officer Burnham had knocked on his door, banged on his door, I guess it was the word he used, on one occasion. And that he also alleged that a number of officers had referred to him as she, and that an officer on one occasion had shined a flashlight in his face. So an exhaustive review was undertaken of the records and body cameras of more than 20 contacts involving the complainant and the police between August 19, 2019 and September 23, 2023, a 4-year period. 3 officers were questioned in person. Statements were taken from officers concerning 22 other contacts with police related to the complainant. Some body cameras were not available because the incidents had occurred before the complainant made his complaint, and several of the officers had left the force before the investigation began. But the footage of 22 body cameras were examined by OPS and by me. 20 call tickets, 11 other police records, and 4 court records were obtained. The complainant's allegation that he had been harassed, questioned, investigated, and detained without cause is not substantiated by an examination of any of this evidence. All of the police contacts were in response to calls concerning the welfare of the complainant's aunt by other individuals, his conduct in the neighborhood, or on one occasion his own wish to self-report an accident. The only exception to contacts made in response to other individuals was that Officer Burnham once stopped him related to an investigation into a hit-and-run accident involving a car that the complainant was driving at the time. And this occurred on April 13, 2023. The officer saw him driving a car that he knew had been involved in a hit-and-run accident earlier that day. I'm sorry, it was 4 days earlier. But he did also know that the complainant's neighbor had complained that same day that the complainant had forced the neighbor's car off the road. So again, I would say that the officer had reason to believe that crimes had been committed and that the complainant may have committed them and was justified in stopping and detaining him. Body camera footage substantiates that the complainant in this instance was somewhat hostile and argumentative and insisted upon leaving. The officer ordered him out of the car and used handcuffs to detain him temporarily, which is permitted by different general orders of the department, even in an instance in which the individual exhibits no resistance. And the complainant's only other detention was an arrest for a violation of an order of protection 2 days later, pursuant to a city court warrant. As further proof of harassment, the complainant alleged that Officer Burnham rapped excessively on his door on one occasion, and that one night an officer shined a flashlight in his face. And the Officer Burnham, can be seen in a video repeatedly pounding on the complainant's door with his hand and his nightstick. And another officer, Campbell, acknowledged shining a flashlight in the complainant's face on one occasion because he said it was dark and also in order to get his attention. Both of these things might seem a little heavy-handed, but I think they fall short of harassment by the officers. So I would conclude that the complainant's allegation that he was harassed by the police cannot be substantiated. He also accuses the officers of being assholes, specifically by referring to him as a she, although he identifies and appears as male. In none of the many body cameras viewed can any of the officers be heard to refer to the complainant by the female pronoun. And many of them were solicitous, courteous, and deferential when he identified as trans. The only poor demeanor, as Detective Johnson concluded, was a remark by Officer Campbell in one of the encounters. The officer responded, "I don't give a shit," when the complainant was referring to the loss of a relative. So I would conclude that the allegations that he was harassed through improper investigations and references to the complainant as a she were unfounded and sustain only the one incidence of Officer Campbell exhibiting poor demeanor.
Thank you for that. And I know that was a pretty exhaustive review. That was one of the heaviest case files I've had in a while, so I appreciate your time. And I do think it's worth mentioning that, by and large, the officers did their best to maintain respect and dignity and integrity, throughout the process. So thank you, and thank you for them. So I make a motion to approve and accept the findings as relayed by APD.
All right, any questions by any other board members? Is the complainant here today? No? Okay. All right, with regards to the first allegation, we have the finding of unfounded, and this is complaint of harassment. I think a better classification, considering doing to all the interactions, would be a call handling. Is that how we had it? How was it listed on the OPS report? I don't have that on me.
I'm not sure how Detective Johnson.
Would have that been?
It very well, maybe, I don't have the
I don't
report
have it
right
on me
in
as
front
well. All right, well, we're gonna, if we have to just adjust the qualification of it.
I categorize the three allegations as one, harassment, two, the references,
So that would be discourteousness?
use of an improper pronoun, and three, the poor demeanor by Officer Campbell.
Would you be comfortable if the allegations 2 and 3 would classify as discourteousness? I believe that would be the.
I think that would be appropriate.
Okay, because that would be in more line with, I think, what usually OPS finds with regards to those. Were you comfortable with that, Mr. Lawrence?
Yes, sure.
Are you comfortable with that, Batman? All right. We'll keep the first allegation as harassment for now. So with regards of harassment and the exhaustive, and thank you so much, this was thick, to say the least. We're going to find unfounded with regards to APD harassing this complainant. Do I have, making a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Batman's case, I'll take that. Batman, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. The second allegation, we're going to put as a count of discourteousness. With regards to interaction, this is one count for discourteousness, is unfounded, as it was not founded, excuse me. Can I get a second for a motion of unfounded for this? Second. Batman again, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The third allegation, another matter of discourteous, which we did, which our monitor and OPS did find with regards to one interaction out of many with APD. The third allegation of discourteousness is sustained, and Monitor Lawrence described the word. I won't have to repeat it, but that does seem discourteous. Is the finding of sustained? Can I get a second for the finding? Third for finding of sustained. Batman again. Can I get all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, Al, last one for me. Take it away.
Okay. In this case, the complainant alleged that he was parked in front of his home in the early morning hours when two police officers boxed him in and, without identifying themselves, pulled their weapons and ordered him out of the car. He said he was blinded by the headlights and didn't know that they were officers, and so he fled. But that when he realized he was being chased by police officers, he complied and was searched and arrested. One of the investigating detectives, by the name of Ryan Johnson, acted out of personal agendas, the complainant said, and a hunch that the complainant was involved in an earlier shooting, and that's why they were after him. So he claimed that his arrest was improper and amounted to racial profiling and kidnapping, he said. So the records, body cameras, and interviews with 4 officers demonstrate that the police were investigating a shooting at Central Avenue and Henry Johnson Boulevard and pursued 2 cars that they believed were involved in this. One of them was a blue Toyota that was registered to the complainant. And that car fled. Its description and registration number were broadcast on police radios. Detective Ryan Johnson heard the description. He was working at another location, but he heard the description and recognized the license plate number from another case that he had investigated, and he knew where the complainant lived. So he headed to the complainant's home, met another officer there, found the car parked outside the house with its lights on. The officers were in unmarked cars, but Officer Johnson said they were wearing vests that identified themselves as police officers, and he insisted that they identified themselves as police in trying to subdue the complainant. On his body camera, you can hear him shout commands to the complainant, but it's difficult, at least it was difficult for me, to understand what he was saying. The complainant was apprehended by 2 other officers who took chase and took him into custody, and his car was searched and a handgun was found, and he was charged with illegal possession of a weapon. So the complainant appears to allege that he was stopped, pursued, arrested, and his car was searched without cause, but that he was arrested based on a personal animus on the part of Detective Johnson that may have been motivated by racial profiling. But the circumstances suggest that the detective had a reasonable suspicion that a crime had been committed, and that the complainant may have committed it, and thus, I think, had a valid reason to stop, pursue, and take the complainant into custody, and to search the car and that he was sitting in with the lights on, and found at the wheel of the car. So I think the officer should be exonerated on the allegation that the stop and arrest was improper. Whether they approached the car and identified themselves as police officers before they ordered him to stop and pursued him on foot can't really be independently confirmed or refuted. There is a requirement in the general orders that police officers identify themselves by name and badge number when requested to do so, but that's not exactly what happened here. Detective Burns of OPS acknowledged that it is common practice for officers to identify themselves as police when in pursuit of a subject, but she could find no requirement that they do so, and I couldn't either, either in the general orders or in case law. So I would conclude that this allegation should be exonerated as well.
Yeah, agreed. I found the same, that the complaint lacked a lot of context. The initial shooting incident, leaving the traffic stop, there was a couple of things that happened in between that. My issue with this, well, I guess we'll vote on this, and then I have a remark after, if that makes more sense, probably. Yeah. So I agree, exonerated and stuff, 100%.
All right. Are there any questions from the board? Is a complainant present or online?
One other thing I'd like to say, you know, I'm fully about accountability and right and wrong and this and third. To be clear, there was no evidence of harassment or racial profiling or anything in this situation at all. So I just want to make that very clear.
Thank you. No complaint here, no further questions. We can move on to the monitor's findings. We have allegation 1 with regards to the stop and search. This is, first finding is exonerated as proper. And can I get a second for the motion for exonerated?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. The second would be police did not identify themselves before pursuing complaint on foot. This was also exonerated. Can I get a second?
Second.
Batman. All in favor?
Aye.
Next is the complainant was arrested without cause, so this is arrest authority procedure, and this is also exonerated. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you very much.
So my specific concern about this case, it's not really a complaint per se, kind of procedurally. So when I was reviewing the case, one of his complaints was the procedure of his arrest and how that happened and stuff like that. So I'm looking at it in the case file. Officer Elliott, I believe it was initially, mentioned that after the execution of a search warrant, a loaded handgun was found. Cool, and that's why I got arrested and whatnot. And it was also mentioned by Buhner, yeah. It was also mentioned by Buhner on a report to the DA. When I was looking through the case file and whatnot, I didn't see a copy of the search warrant. So I asked the officer who was there, Hillary, I forget her last name, I'm sorry.
Detective Burns?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I asked her, I said, hey, I can't find the search warrant. And she said, oh, there probably isn't one. And I said, that's weird because Elliott says at the result of a search warrant. And her response was, he probably misspoke. And I said, okay. And she explained he wasn't the initial investigator, he wasn't the detective, so he might have just misspoke. And she said, can you show me in the case file where it's there? Here it is. And then I said, there's also another incident where someone else signs off and says, as a result of a search warrant. So she wasn't sure at that point, and she said, hey, I can go grab the officer if you want. I said, that'd be very helpful. Thank you so much. She went, and she came back, and she had printed it out. She found it, or whatever. So my concern with that is, when I initially asked, it was, hey, he just misspoke. But actually, there was a search warrant. And it's great, because we did have the warrant. It was executed. Everything was by the book. That's cool. But the effort to keep those in the files, and I guess an extra second look to make sure, as opposed to wiping, you know what I mean? It just seemed kind of dismissive, and it was concerning, because if there wasn't a search warrant, then we'd have a whole other issue. He'd have a case with procedures and whatnot. But if there was, just the inclusion of those things in files and whatnot.
Yeah, so to confirm, there was a search warrant and there was a copy located?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
it was there, and it is now in the file, 100%.
Okay, so then it appears that Detective Burns misspoke and not Officer Elliott then. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Batman. Thank you, Commander. All right, next is CC 2023-020. So it's Mr. Lawrence and Mr. Pearson.
Okay. The complainant's son, in this case, was arrested in connection with an incident in which her nephew was killed and another man was wounded. All three had property taken from them at the time, but the complainant complained that it was not documented by the police, that no receipts were given, even though the complainant asked for receipts after the fact through her son's lawyers. She said her son had $1,100 in his possession at the time. She could only speculate as to the property of the deceased nephew, which she had permission to retrieve. And she had hearsay information about the property taken from the third man. By the time she was interviewed by Detective Burns of OPS, though, she said she had received all the money to which she was entitled and said she would withdraw her complaint, but she did not do so in writing, and so we're here today, I guess. So the complaint seems to raise three issues. First, that she didn't receive a complaint, a receipt for the property that was taken from her son and the others. That it's possible that not all of the property was returned to her, and that what was returned was not done so in a timely manner. As to the first allegation, the forensic detective collected evidence at the scene of this incident at the hospital and took from the complainant's son and the victims the property and cataloged it on police computers the same day. According to Detective Burns, the common practice is for them to take the property and take notes at the time and then enter it into a computer template later, and that there's no requirement that receipts be given. There is a provision in the general orders which states that if a receipt is needed at the scene, officers shall use a property report and provide the owner or complainant with the yellow copy of the property report. But the complainant wasn't at the scene, and the receipt wasn't requested at that time. It doesn't seem that the cash was evidence of the shooting. I think it was rather taken for safekeeping at the time of the arrest. And so I would say that the officers were exonerated on the claim that no receipts were given. Concerning the second claim that perhaps not all the money was returned, the complainant did retrieve the $1,100 that her son carried at the time. And in her original complaint, she said she had no idea how much cash the nephew was carrying, but she did know that he had been given money by someone else, I think her mother, the nephew's grandmother, for rent that day and an additional $300, and she, excuse me, she suspected that he couldn't have spent the $300 already. She later noted that the rent money had been accounted for, but wasn't sure about the other money. The forensic detective documented only $101 as having been taken from that individual, and that money has been returned to the complainant. So since it can't be determined what the property was taken at the time of the crime and whether all of it was returned, I would say that this allegation is not sustained. Concerning the timeliness of the return, the DA's office did write on December 14, 2022, that the property could be released, and advised the property detective of this on December 19th. But the DA's letter didn't detail what property was being held or to whom it belonged, and the property reports apparently did not identify the owner of the $1,100. The detective explained that he went on vacation shortly after receiving this letter from the DA, and then had to investigate in order to determine what property had been taken and to whom it should be returned. a general order does require that all property be inventoried, and the officer who takes it is responsible to ascertain who it belongs to, and should notify the owner of or the custodian of that property that it's in the custody of the department. So it does seem that the property detective should have had this information when the complainant requested its return. But he did release the money a day after she filed the complaint in this matter, and whether the timing was coincidental or whether it was prompted by the complaint, it does not seem unduly long from December 19 to January 31. So I would conclude that the property detective should be exonerated on this allegation. So exonerated, not sustained, and exonerated are my recommendations.
On the report, it says unfounded for it too. So it's exonerated, unfounded, exonerated. Would you rather it be unsustained or unfounded, the second finding?
As to the timeliness,
for the second allegation, that was the property handling. It is possible that not all the property was taken in return to complainant.
yeah, I think maybe Detective Burns suggested unfounded, but I would say not sustained, since it can't be proven one way or another whether all the property was.
Okay, so unsustained. All right.
I just have a quick, yes, I just have a quick question for Commander Murray. So in that exchange, when families show up to retrieve property, and do they go to what's called the Lost and Found department? They speak to a particular detective about stuff that was retrieved from the deceased and the person who did the crime or whatever they done. So everything was retrieved, but who exactly is allowed to show up to retrieve it? Because they don't have a receipt or anything of that nature.
So that depends on the type of case that it is, and in this particular case, the district attorney was involved. So in that instance, if it's attached to an investigation, we can't release property until the district attorney's office gives us the green light to do so. Dependent on the circumstances of the call, if we have a non-suspicious death and the next of kin have been notified, and they normally, they've been notified, they've been in contact with the police department, it's a pretty streamlined process. I mean, if they have paperwork saying they're the next of kin or like a power of attorney or something like that, that's definitely always helpful. In those situations where there might be a discrepancy, you know, they are welcome to call and talk to us at any time, and the property detective, along again with the district attorney's office, if they're involved, that's something that should be simple enough to iron
So
out.
they don't need to show up with, per se, a death certificate or?
I mean, it depends on many different factors, including the type of circumstance surrounding the death. Is it suspicious? Is it being investigated? Is it part of a crime? In those circumstances, which this was, the district attorney's office is going to, I mean, I would suggest, I don't want to speak for the district attorney's office, but in those circumstances, we should have an idea of who the family is. I would think that we would have that contact with them prior. I can understand if the property detective isn't familiar with the case or hasn't had a chance to speak with the case detective. That could cause a minor delay. That's not anything that would be an extended period of time on normal circumstances. I mean, the fact that he went on vacation, I'm sure, plays into it, but that's not information that the property detective would know off the top of their head, but the case detective would. So that's just something simple as they would have to connect on that, and then they should be able to streamline that without a problem.
Okay, thank you.
And I just want to make clear that there was no question in this case, that she had the right to retrieve. I think the DA's, I might have to check my notes on this, but I think the DA's letter indicated that she had the right to retrieve the son's money, and she had a letter, I think it was even a notarized letter from her sister authorizing her to receive the money from the nephew.
Okay, got it. Thank
So
you.
that wasn't a reason for the delay, that
Right.
she didn't have the receipt.
Right, because this was a murder that was committed by a nephew of the person, correct?
Well, she doesn't say this, but I believe her son was arrested for killing the nephew, yes.
Right.
But nonetheless,
Okay.
she had the right to receive that
Yeah,
money.
she did. I was just wondering, why did the aunt show up instead of,
I think she was from out of state.
oh, okay. Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Is the complainant present? All right, for the first allegation, property handling, the complainant did not receive receipt of this at the scene for property taken from her son and other involved in the shooting, finding as exonerated. Can I get a second? Santos, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Allegation 2 for the property handling, it's possible that not all property was taken as returned to the complainant. This is unsustained. Can I get a second?
Second.
Not sustained, yeah. Thank you. The second, how about Dr. V? All in favor?
Aye.
Third allegation for property handling, what was returned was not done in a timely manner. This is also exonerated. Could I get a second? Emily, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. No, we got, yep. So next is, case with me, it's CC 2023-044.
Okay, the complainant alleged that she'd been playing basketball in Washington Park and later discovered that her wallet was missing, and she called police to report it stolen. She said she waited for more than an hour to respond, but that no one showed up. And she added that this isn't the first time that this happened either. The call ticket, in this case, indicates that her call was received at 3:06 in the afternoon, but it also indicated that no incident was in progress at the time, and no officer was dispatched to her home for nearly 4 hours, during which time a heavy volume of 70 other calls were handled by the police. An officer was dispatched at 6:58 p.m., and he arrived at her home 5 minutes later. The officer indicated in an interview with OPS that he couldn't locate the complainant, that he called Central Station, and that he asked that they attempt to call her, but that they received no response. Detective Stiles and OPS tried to contact the complainant by telephone and email for clarification of the remark that this wasn't the first time that this has happened to her, but she could not be reached. So the call wasn't an emergency, and it appears to have come at a time of heavy congestion of 911 calls. And in any event, it can't be attributed, the delay cannot be attributed to the officer who did respond within 5 minutes of being dispatched. So I would submit that the claim of delay, the officer should be exonerated on the claim of delay. And that since the complainant could not be reached concerning her other claim that this wasn't the first time that this had occurred, that allegation should be not sustained.
For this one, I'm sorry. Yeah, right here, 044. So for this, though, on the report, I have here exonerated, not sustained.
Exonerated on the delay.
Okay.
You have exonerated on both? I don't remember
I have.
what the detective's conclusion was. I mean,
I
my
just have the
position
one
would be you
listed.
can't say it's exonerated because there's no proof one way or another, since we couldn't get any further
All right.
details from her. But
Do you see that, though? Oh. All right, because I just have, for this one, I think I'm read the right one, October report.
I guess
so
the
on-
detective didn't explicitly address them as two different allegations.
Yeah, but no, I'm just on my report here that I have in my packet.
Oh, this is me. Yeah, well, I did too in my report. I guess I'm just thinking about it now as being two separate allegations of delay, since she said it was delayed on the date that her wallet was stolen, but she also indicated that it had happened on other occasions, so.
Okay. Well, we have one on paper, but you stayed in W2. Oh.
I thought it was on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can make an allegation that something happened 2 years ago, but we, you know, what are we doing? You know
No,
what I'm saying?
I hear. So, Ms. Lawrence, the report we have written down has one, is concurs with the OPS report with regards to exoneration for one allegation. Do you want to amend that report to have two, or do you want to have it as it stands with reflection of the OPS report?
You can keep it, it's just that it just seemed a little far-fetched to me because it just seemed a little far-fetched.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You know what
That
I'm
statement in and of
saying?
itself can't rise to an allegation as this isn't the first time.
Yeah.
Okay, but what does that really mean? I don't think that rises to an allegation that must be, examined. I think the exonerated
Does
makes
that make
sense.
sense, Al?
Yes, sure.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we're going to have the report as it stands. We concur with OPS's finding with regards to the coal handling of this and as exonerated. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Batman. All in favor? Oh.
Okay,
Thank you, Al.
thank you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to CC 2023-046, which is my complaint. The complainant alleged that an officer used unprofessional and derogatory language towards him, and the complainant further alleged that the officer failed to properly acknowledge there was a passenger in a vehicle during a vehicular accident, resulting in the falsification of documentation. So after reviewing the body-worn camera, there is a section at 10 minutes 18 seconds in where the officer responded to the complainant, "You're such a fucking idiot, shut up." The complainant responded, watch your effing language, asshole." And the officer then responded, "That's why I called you an idiot." when it came to the officer having a passenger in the vehicle as alleged, there was supposed to be a passenger, but in essence, there were two officers that responded, and the other officer that was present did denote that there was another officer there. Did denote that there was a passenger in the vehicle. The complainant also was upset that they didn't give a ticket to the vehicle, the second vehicle that was in the area, but what happens is that the officers did not actually view the accident. So they couldn't attest to giving a speeding ticket to someone that they didn't actually view what had occurred. They weren't there to watch this speeding car, so how do you give a ticket? You know, they can't just issue a ticket to someone just because someone says, oh, they were speeding. You know what I'm saying? So that's why they didn't end up doing that. Detective Adalian did note in 2023 that he attempted to phone the complainant regarding additional details in this complaint. And at the end of 23, the complainant was contacted 1 year and 6 days after the submission of the complaint and stated he wanted the officers to issue a ticket to the driver to the other vehicle based upon a 50-foot skid mark. And it was explained again to the complainant that we can't issue, that officers cannot issue tickets on, I think they call it supposition, is that? They supposed action, in other words, is that right? Okay. So the findings were, on 4/8/2025, I wrote to Detective Adalian inquiring two questions. The two questions were, as two allegations were found to have been sustained, were disciplinary sanctions advised by OPS? And if no disciplinary sanctions were advised, could you please provide the CPRB with the reason as to why they were not addressed by the CPRB, by APD? And the reason why the two allegations were found as sustained by OPS is because when you observe the body-worn camera, you do hear the officer cursing at the complainant. It was plain, clear, you know. So that's where the those two allegations came from. So on 4/24/25, this writer received the following correspondence from Commander Maury indicating the following. In regards to your questions posed to Detective Adalian, I would like to inform you that while OPS did identify two applicable policy violations related to the named complaint, our ability to serve the appropriate disciplinary action in this case was impeded due to disciplinary time restrictions as laid out by the CBA between the officers PBA and the City of Albany. The mechanism which caused this overdue timeline has been identified and rectified to prevent a similar situation from occurring in the future. Both named officers in the complaint were required to attend and fully satisfy a retraining session addressing their outlined deficiencies in accident reporting and courtesy. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact me. And that was, as I stated, from Commander Maury. So Detective Adalian's findings regarding the allegation, the alleged violation of conduct standards as detailed as sustained, where the review disclosed sufficient facts to prove the allegations made in the complaint. While Officer Morris was investigating the accident, he and Mr. Perez did have a verbal altercation over a ticket not being issued to Mr. Perez's, due to Mr. Perez's actions toward the female driver. During the altercation, Officer Morris did state to Mr. Perez, you're such a effing idiot, shut up, you're an idiot, and I said you're an idiot. So I concur with these findings. Officer Morris violated General Order 2.2.00 Rules of Conduct, 1A24, which is courtesy. Personnel shall be courteous to public. Personnel shall be tactful in their performance of duties, shall control their tempers and exercise the utmost patience and discretion, and shall not engage in argumentative discussions. As to Detective Adalian's findings of the alleged violation call handling, it is detailed as unfounded, where the review shows that the acts or acts complained of did not occur or were misconstrued. Officer Mentor stated in his OPS interview that he did not include any false statements within the accident report. Officer Mentor documented in the accident report the accounts of both drivers involved in the accident correctly based upon what was described to him on the scene. I concur with these findings. It appears that what was reported by both drivers of the vehicles was properly documented. Detective Adalian's findings regarding the allegation of call handling is detailed as sustained, where the review discloses sufficient facts to prove the allegations made in the complaint. Officer Mentor stated that OPS interview with the second male officer at the scene stated he was, at the second male on the scene stated that he was the passenger of Mr. Perez's vehicle. Officer Mentor further stated he did not document him on the accident report due to him having no injuries. I concurred with these findings. Officer Mentor violated APD General Order 2.2.0, 1A40, Department Records. Personnel shall submit all necessary reports on time in accordance with the established departmental guidelines. Reports submitted by personnel shall be truthful and complete, and no employee shall knowingly enter or cause to be entered any inaccurate, false, or improper information. Because no discipline was meted by APD chief because of the one-year statute of limitations has lapsed, it is this writer's recommendation that APD's OPS follow their policies and guidelines regarding a notification process of complaint status as detailed within OPS general, the OPS general orders. So for the first allegation, call handling procedures, that's sustained.
Do you want to do?
What?
Oh, no,
And the second one, call handling, was unfounded, and the third one, call handling, was sustained. So,
do we have any questions from the board? Is a complainant present? Okay. All right.
you got more?
Yeah, I think so. All right. For the first allegation of call handling procedures, we have sustained. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. V. All in favor?
Aye.
For the second allegation of call handling, we have unfounded. Second?
Second.
Emily, I'll get that one. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. For the third allegation, final, another of call handling, we have sustained. Can I get a second?
Second.
Dr. V, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. The next case is CC 2024-019. You don't care.
Thank you. Okay, so this is an incident that happened on August 16th of 2023. It was received by the CPRB April 17th of 2024. There are allegations of call handling and conduct standards. Background on the case is at 911 Central Avenue, which is the Dollar Tree store. The complainant says they were assaulted by an unknown customer. After said assault, the complainant went outside of the store into the parking lot and with a pair of bolt cutters broke the customer, who was also the aggressor's window. After the complainant committed said act, he returned to the store and assaulted two coworkers unprovoked, who subdued him physically. The complainant alleges that while he and the customer were arrested, his coworkers, who were also physically aggressive, were not. The complainant also alleges that when they went to South Station, they were physically bumped into by an officer when they went to obtain a report of the incident, and that he was ignored and again bumped into. So OPS, as did I, reviewed the IDC's body-worn camera footage, call logs, and the arrest reports. And OPS finds that the complainant was assaulted by the customer while at work, and that customer was arrested for assault. Additional OPS finds, and I would concur through the body-worn camera footage as well as the IDCs, that the complainant re-entered the store. He attacks his two coworkers, and those two coworkers used physical force to subdue him. According to Article 35 of the New York State Penal Law, it states the use of physical force upon another person which would otherwise constitute an offense is justifiable and not criminal under the following circumstances. Any person may, pursuant of the ensuing provisions of this article, use physical force upon another person in self-defense or defense of a third person or in defense of the premises, or in order to prevent larceny or criminal mischief to property, or in order to effect an arrest or prevent an escape from custody. Whenever a person is authorized by such provision to use deadly physical force in any given circumstance, nothing contained in any other such provision may be deemed to negate or qualify such authorization. So it was substantiated that through the arrest logs that the customer was arrested for assaulting the complainant, but the complainant was arrested for mischief because he broke the window with the box cutters. The coworkers were not held liable in any capacity because they were defending themselves after he clearly attacks them first. So I would agree with the call handling being exonerated. As for conduct standards, the complainant was interviewed in person regarding the conduct standard allegations, and the complainant was unable to give dates or times that this incident occurred. Thus, OPS was unable to investigate the claim sufficiently. So a finding of no finding was issued, which I also concur with. So for call handling, I would say exonerated, and conduct standards, no finding. Sorry.
Any question from the board?
I'm sorry, can you say the two allegations? It was call handling. Got you.
Are we good, Batman, or?
Oh, I'm good. Sorry.
All right. So for the first call handling, we have a finding of exonerated. Do I have a second? Tony, I got. All in favor? Aye. For the second charge of conduct standard as well, we have no finding. Do I get a second?
Second.
Emily, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next up, very quickly, I had complaint closures, which were okay. We see if we have to make a motion to. Yeah. Okay. Just quick complaint closures. We have these were out of jurisdiction and referred, or just found unfounded, and no reason for review. It's a CC 2025-048, CC 2025-046, CC 2025-052, and CC 2025-053. The pertinent ones were all recommended to the appropriate offices or departments. Can I make a motion to have these closed without review? Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Moving on to our review for independent investigation, CC 2023-013. Julie, this is going to be yours.
Yes, hi. So this is an independent investigation. In 2023, the mother of a 3-year-old child came to the CPRB and made a complaint regarding that in 2019, she alleged that her daughter was sexually abused by the daughter's father, and that APD including, at the time, Detective Askew failed to thoroughly investigate the allegations, and that during the course of the pending of the case, he was rude to her. So as a result, we, you know what, before I even start, I do want to, it's been so long, but I want to thank you, John and Dr. V, for mentioning the amount of interviews we did. I do think it's important for everyone to know that those 15 interviews, which were done with the cooperation of APD, with the unions, and with our attorneys, the board's attorneys, going to court and pressing the court to get them to have to comply with our subpoenas. So that would not have happened, and while it took a long time, we were able to do all of that this year. So I do want to thank you for recognizing it and recognizing the other people that helped facilitate that. So this is one of the interviews that we did. As a result, we interviewed the mother, the grandmother, and the lieutenant detective. We also reviewed all of APD's general orders, the police reports, prior interviews done by OPS and summaries, medical records, family court records, forensic lab reports, an audio recording made by the mother of Lieutenant Detective Askew, and the OPS confidential report. So to reach our findings, we evaluated the credibility of all the witnesses, including the details of the accounts provided and the circumstances of the disclosure. I know everyone's late and wants to go home, but this was a very serious case that we put a lot of time and effort into, so I please bear with me. But so the mother alleged that on October 3rd of 2019, she picked her daughter up from daycare. They went to Price Chopper, where the child needed to use the restroom. And at the store, the daughter told the mother that her woo-woo hurt because her daddy put a pacifier in it. The mother noticed blood in the child's underwear. According to the mother, the term woo-woo was to refer to her vagina. The mother took her first to Ellis Hospital in Schenectady, but the wait was too long. She then brought her to the Albany Medical Center, where she was examined by a pediatrician, and a sexual assault kit was prepared and collected.
Julie, may I ask if you could stay speaking into the mic? It looks like you're going in and out. We hear you and then we don't.
Sorry, okay, I'm reading also, so I'm looking down, so I'll try to keep my face up. I'm sorry, Dr. Reese. So they went to the hospital. She was examined by a pediatrician, and a sexual assault kit was collected. The pediatrician comments in the medical records that she saw 4 pinpoint abrasions on the vaginal wall of the child. She also, all the medical records indicate that the child was, while fearful of the exam, was consistent in her recounting of what happened by everyone that she was interviewed through. So an investigation was opened. The kit was sent to the lab to be tested. There was a finding on November 13th of 2019 that while there was no spermatozoa or semen on any of the swabs submitted for testing, there was a mixture of male DNA found on the crotch area cutting from the daughter's underwear. However, while the profile was of at least 3 male donors, but due to the complexity of the genetic information, the profile was not suitable for further comparison. Detective Lieutenant Gregory Askew, who was just a detective at the time, was assigned to the case on October 7th of 2019. He interviewed the daughter with the mother at the Child Advocacy Center, where she also in the presence of another detective and a child protective worker by the name of Audrey Lowe. The daughter repeated the same thing, that the dad put a pacifier in her woo-woo and her woo-woo hurt. These allegations were the same as she told her mother, and as I said earlier, the medical professionals. The detective asked her how to describe the pacifier, and he said he went with her by his hands to see how long it was. She described it as yellow and 18 inches long. She was shown a pacifier, and she referred to that as a binky. Now, the child was 3 years old at the time. All the notes indicate that, well, for a 3-year-old, she was very bright. Under the law, a 3-year-old 3-year-old is not swearable. What that means is she is not allowed to swear to in court to give evidence. So to make a case with a child that's 3 years old, the detective needed corroboration. That corroboration could be medical evidence, it could be forensic evidence, or a admission by the defendant. The detective spoke with the doctor at the hospital, and while she said it was consistent with the allegations, the abrasions to the vagina were consistent with the allegations, they were also consistent with other things that could have happened. The child could have scratched herself, for example. So Detective Askew interviewed the father on October 23rd, and the father consented to a search of the apartment. During the search, they did recover 2 small yellow Play-Doh rolling pins. The detective also spoke with the daughter's daycare teacher. She said, according to the notes from the detective, that she didn't say anything to her about her vagina hurting, nor did she see blood in her underwear. However, there was nothing in the case file indicated whether the teacher assisted the daughter in the bathroom. The daughter was re-interviewed on October 29th at the Child Advocacy Center again. She was showed a 12-picture packet, including the yellow Play-Doh bins and a pacifier. Again, she identified the Play-Doh rolling pins as a roller and the pacifier as a Vinky. Askew never asked the daughter if any of the objects in the packet were what her father put in her vagina. There was also the mother said that there was a little girl that used to come play, but she stopped coming over. Askew did go on the next day, on October 30th, and spoke with the little girl's mother, and the mother said that the play dates just stopped because they had been busy. Askew then went to the Albany County District Attorney's Office. He spoke with the chief of the Sex Crimes Bureau. At the time, her name was Shannon Safro, and she told Askew says that the chief concurred there was sufficient evidence to arrest the father. So at that time, he closed the case on October 30th by lack of he used solvability factors. He was aware that the CPS was filing a child protective petition for the matter to be handled in family court. Mother was advised by Askew that the case at this point will no longer be actively investigated, but if more evidence is discovered, the case can be reopened. In October of 2019, the daughter's grandmother went to Chief Hawkins' office twice and the Albany District Attorney's Office to report the crime. In the spring, the grandmother went back to the DA's office, but was not allowed to speak with anyone at the DA's office, and she was referred back to APD. The grandmother did speak with Hawkins' secretary, but she never heard back from anyone from APD. On March 31st, the family court of 2021, the family court had a fact-finding hearing and ended, and there was a child abuse finding against the father, and a 5-year order of protection was issued in favor of the daughter. The mother has provided TNM with the family court decision, and it does indicate that the mother, but just to be clear, the family court decision establishes by a fair preponderance of the evidence that the father constituted sexual abuse in the 2nd degree. There's nothing in the court's decision that indicates that the father admitted to the sexual offense. The burden of proof in family court is much less than the burden of proof in criminal court, which is beyond a reasonable doubt. In the summer of 2021, the mother tried to contact Askew to apprise him of the family court finding. However, she said that she was told he was out of the office of training. In the spring of 2022, the mother contacted Askew to advise him there was a child abuse finding against the father, and family court, and asked him to reopen the criminal investigation of the father. Askew told mother there was not enough evidence to reopen the case, and the mother alleges that Askew told her he was too busy to set up a meeting with her. On January 18th, 2023, the mother spoke with Askew on the phone, and she recorded this conversation. She said she was following up on the Safe Kit's results. The mother asked Askew for the rape kit and the results. However, Askew Askew was not sure if it came back yet. He told the mother he would look into it, and he told her he had a lot of cases. Mother asked Askew if he got the evidence from family court, and Askew told her he couldn't use the evidence from family court. Mother was asked what rule prohibited findings from family court to be admissible in the criminal case, and Askew told her he didn't know off the top of his head. The mother kept pressing Askew into looking into the family court case and told him what he said when she made the allegations. He would reopen the case after the family case was over. Askew denied saying that. The mother said to him, was he lying then or is he lying now? And then Askew hung up on her. On January 2023, the mother filed the complaint, which we investigated with the CPRB. She alleges that Askew failed to conduct a thorough investigation into the alleged sexual assault of daughter. She alleged that Detective Sergeant Fargione, who was the head of the unit at the time, and Askew failed to interrogate father for several weeks and failed to review daughter's medical records. The mother alleged that Askew closed the case is unfounded and expressed it was best to let CPS handle the situation, and once that was complete, he would reopen the case. The mother alleged that when she spoke with Askew, he failed to provide his direct supervisor's name, his badge number, and then he terminated several phone calls. The mother alleged that on January 19, 2023, Askew informed her that the same kit was not tested yet. So there was a lot of back and forth trying to get this case filed. On January 30th, after receiving the complaint, we reached out to Detective Dixon, and because she was assigned to investigate, we were told she was assigned to investigate it. In April, we asked for the mother to come in. She made arrangements. She provided us with all the materials that she had in her possession. On May 15th, we requested that Dixon provide the entire case file, including both the OPS investigation file and the detective's case file. On May 17th, 2023, TNM received an email from Marissa Franchini, who was the corporation counsel for the city of Albany at the time, where she indicated she refused to provide the case file absent a subpoena. We have attached to this decision that email. We then interviewed the mother virtually. We interviewed the grandmother telephonically. On June 8th, TNM appeared before the CPRB and requested permission to subpoena the case file. On June 19th, Chief Hawkins was served with a subpoena ducis tecum for the case file with a return date of June 28th, 2023. On June 28th, 2023, APD failed to provide the case file. Franchini indicated that the CPRB needed to provide a so-ordered judicial subpoena for the case file. After Michael Goldstein, who was outside counsel for the CPRB, pointed out that corporation's counsel position was not legally correct, Franchini changed her position but indicated she was not providing the case file because to do so was a public safety issue. There was a lot of back and forth between June 28th and August 4th between corporation counsel and Attorney Goldstein on clarification on how to get the case. And which I find ironically, there's an indication by Franchini where she says me and my investigator are skilled enough to investigate a sexual assault case. And of course I took that personally since I'm the former bureau chief of the Kings County Sex Crimes Bureau, and my co-counsel was a inspector in the NYPD Sex Crimes Bureau. So we had a lot of back and forth, a lot of pushback. Like I said, we went to court. In August of 2023, Askew conferred with Safro again to ensure she still believed there was sufficient evidence to arrest the father, and she informed him that in her opinion nothing had changed. He also reached out to the present Sex Crimes Bureau Chief, Carolyn Murray, and she concurred with Safro's assessment. On August 13th, Goldstein requested Corporation Counsel to comply with the subpoena, or in the alternative, he would make a motion to compel in Supreme Court. On August 22nd, we got in Assistant Corporation Counsel Matthew Toporowski indicated the city would now comply. So on September 8th, Toporowski emailed Goldstein requesting a HIPAA release, and we reminded him that there was one in the possession of the case file since October of 2019. Finally, on September 11th, APD provided the case file. On January 11th of 2024, TNM appeared before the CPRB and requested subpoenas for Askew and Police Officer Chen, who was the officer who was at the hospital, to be interviewed by TNM. The officers were served on that, and there was a return date on February 13th, and on February 13th, neither officer appeared, so therefore we couldn't conduct any interviews. In September of 2024, on a separate matter, the CPRB received a ruling that if officers are subpoenaed, they must appear. So on March 8th, OPS provided Askew's interview, and then on March 14th, we went back before the CPRB, requested a second subpoena. We subpoenaed both of them. Officer Chen was on military leave, and so we did not interview her, but we interviewed Askew in April of 2025. So I think it's just important to show the persistence that everybody put into this case to get it, because there's been some talk that the CPRB is not diligent and doing their jobs, or things take a long time. Things take a long time because there's a lot of obstacles in the path, not because all of us are not trying to do the best we can. So like I said, we interviewed Askew, the mother, and the grandfather. So we made the following findings: that APD and Askew conducted an investigation into the allegation of sex abuse of daughter by father. Askew interviewed father within a reasonable time frame. APD and Askew reviewed daughter's medical records. Askew did not unconditionally promise to reopen the case after the family court proceedings were concluded. APD did fail to provide his direct supervisor's information or his badge number. Askew disrespectfully terminated at least one phone call with mother. APD failed to communicate important aspects of the investigation with mother. APD failed to follow up on mother's request for reports and information. Askew was unfamiliar with relevant facts of the case and appropriate process when he spoke on the phone with mother. So, like I said, we went through all those interviews. The one thing about Askew that I think, I don't want to go through everything, it is in the report, but one thing that Askew said is that he did tell the mother that he couldn't use the family court materials, and he didn't have the lab reports, but then when he went and checked, he found out he was wrong, and the advice he gave her regarding family court, he found out that you can use that if there's something there that's useful, and that he did have the lab reports. However, he never followed up with the mother on either of those two issues. So to the findings, is there questions before I get to the findings? Okay, hearing none. So call handling and procedures. The mother alleged that Askew neglected to carry out a thorough investigation and failed to interrogate the suspect. OPS made a finding of not sustained, and TNM agrees with that finding. Askew conducted an investigation, and while it's unclear if he interrogated father, he did interview him. TNM found that there were a few more steps that Askew should have taken, such as following up with the lab regarding the lab results, or recognizing that the physical description that daughter gave of a pacifier was not consistent with a pacifier, since she already identified a pacifier as a binky. It's reasonable to believe that daughter was not describing a pacifier as one would think of it, as the object the father inserted in her vagina. The daughter appeared to think that the pacifier was something else, not what we normally think that it is. He should have made, it's our opinion, he should have made a deeper dive into what the object she described could have been. He could have added other objects into the photo array, such as sex toys, possibly a dildo, to see if she recognized any of those. He also closed the case before he received the laboratory results, and he failed to follow up with the lab to determine if there were any other tests that could have assisted him in corroborating daughter's allegations. Nevertheless, we do recognize the difficulty in proving a case with the 3-year-old as the only witness and no conclusive corroboration. So while we think the investigation could have been better, we do believe it was sufficient. As for the general call handling and procedures, the mother alleged that Askew waited 2.5 weeks to interview father. Askew did interview father 2.5 weeks into the investigation. It's I am and my team are experienced investigators, and in the course of an investigation, it is normal to interview the subject towards the end of your investigation after you gather all the evidence. So therefore, waiting to interview the father is not indicative of an improper or negligent investigation. Accordingly, TNM agrees with OPS's finding of exonerated. The mother alleged that Askew failed to review the nurse examiner's notes. Mother alleged that Askew told her he only reviewed the doctor's notes as opposed to all the medical records. Mother said that Askew told her he did not look at pictures of daughter's injuries. OPS reviewed the case file and the medical records were in the file, but there was nothing in the case that indicated when he reviewed them or what was conveyed to mother. Therefore, OPS made a finding of not sustained, and TNM agrees with that, since it's difficult to determine whether Askew conveyed this back to mother, especially since there is documentation that the records were in the file. So the next one is conduct standards. Mother alleged that Askew closed the case as unfounded and told her that it was best to allow CPS to handle the situation, and when their investigation was over, he would reopen the case. Askew told both OPS and TNM he never told mother he would reopen the case after family court was over, and that what he said he told her was that if new evidence became available, he would reopen the case. Mother told TNM she understood Askew as telling her if there's a finding in family court, he could reopen the case. So it's a lot of semantics here, and it's also unreasonable to expect somebody not knowledgeable like the mother in this area of the law would understand the difference between reopening if there's evidence and such. So the OPS found that the allegations were not sustained, and based on that, TNM agrees that there were insufficient facts to prove or disprove the allegation. The next one is conduct standards. Mother alleged that Askew refused to disclose the supervisor's contact information and his own badge number. When Askew was first assigned the case in 2019, he was a detective. In 2023, when he was contacted by mother, he was detective sergeant, and presently is detective lieutenant. In 2019, his supervisor was Detective Fargione, who retired in 2021. From 2023 to the present, Askew has been the supervisor in the unit. But here's another example of the lack of communication between Askew and mother. Mother knew that Askew was not the supervisor in 2019, and when she asked to speak with the supervisor in 2022 and 2023, Askew kept saying he was the supervisor. Since the relationship between Askew and mother was somewhat fractured, he should have provided her with his supervisor, the commander of the Criminal Investigations Unit. OPS had a finding of not sustained, where the review fails to disclose sufficient facts to prove or disprove the allegation. However, TNM finds that this allegation should be closed as sustained, where the review closes, he did have a supervisor, and he didn't provide her with that information. Mother, there's the next count is conduct standards. Mother alleged that Askew terminated several phone discussions. Askew agreed he terminated some conversation with mother, but he described mother as irate and belligerent to both OPS. That's how he described her to both OPS and TNM. He said she would call on the phone several times over the years to speak with him, and I'd call her back. And Askew described during the course of the conversation, she would swear and yell at him and would not provide an opportunity for him to explain or answer her questions. TNM played a recording of their last conversation for Askew, and the mother could not be heard swearing or yelling at him. Instead, she came across as persistent in trying to get answers to questions she asked before. Askew is heard getting frustrated with mother and terminates the call. OPS closed this allegation as unfounded, where the review shows that the acts or acts complained of did not occur as misconstrued. However, when OPS did this, they failed to, just for the record, they failed to interview the mother, so therefore they didn't have the family court records or the copy of this tape. TNM disagrees because we did have at least this one conversation where the review discloses sufficient facts to prove the allegation made in the complaint. Both mother and Askew agree that Askew terminated calls with her. While they differ in the description of mother on the call, T&M, having one recorded call, was able to determine that Askew did terminate the call and mother's actions were not how he described them to OPS. Evidence and property handling, procedure, and security. Mother alleged that Askew stated that the same kit had not been processed as of January 19, 2023. The lab results were provided to ABD in November of 2019. Askew is heard on the recorded call from January 2023 telling mother he isn't sure if he received the test from the same kit, but he will look into it and get back to her. He also told T&M he never provided mother with the lab results from the kit. OPS closes this allegation as not sustained, but they did not have sufficient facts to prove or disprove the allegation. But T&M disagrees with this allegation and it should be sustained. Based on the phone call that we had, Askew does say he doesn't know the status of the lab results. He isn't sure if they received the results. He told mother he would obtain the lab results and provide her with a copy. Askew never provided mother with any reports, including the lab report. While T&M does find that Askew did a sufficient investigation, he had difficulty conveying that to mother. He could have treated mother with more sensitivity, taking time to explain the difficulty in going forward with the allegations of a 3-year-old with corroboration. He attempted to explain the situation to mother, but saying things like, I have 100 cases, I can't specifically remember what a lab report says, is not what a mother wants to hear. While there was not sufficient evidence to make an arrest, there was enough to believe it was likely the daughter was sexually abused, especially with the family court finding. Askew would have been in a much better position if he brought mother into the office and reviewed the case file with her, or even a better choice would accompany the mother and daughter to the district attorney's office and have a lawyer explain the legal hurdles going forward. So those are my recommendations, my findings, and we also recommend that Askew receive additional training in the investigation of prosecution of child sexual molestation allegations. He did indicate when we spoke with him that he didn't have formal training in these allegations. He was trained by another detective and he's been learning as he's been on the job. Are there any questions?
Yeah, hold on. Go ahead. Yeah.
So the results of the lab kit, you said they came back in 2019, November of 2019?
Yes.
And he told mom that he didn't have them in January of 2023?
He didn't think he had them, he wasn't sure, that's what he says. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I was wondering, do we know that those lab results came directly to him, or did they just not come across his desk? I'm wondering how bad was that?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. So he's the case detective. They were in the case file when we got it from APD, and they're dated November 19th of 2019. So it's reasonable that he had them, and they were in the case file. What we did find is when he would call the mother or speak with her, he wouldn't have the case file in front of him. He would just, so it was a lot of it appeared, it was a lot of off the cuff. I don't know if we have it, let me see, I'll get back to you, as opposed to sitting down, taking the time, reviewing the case file, and then having a conversation regarding what there was in it.
Thank you I know this took a long time, it was an ongoing situation, so I appreciate how thorough you were. And even especially with the subpoena situation, having to navigate that, I know there were a lot of unnecessary barriers. So I appreciate you staying consistent and working hard for mom to make sure we move forward.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Julie. Are there any other questions? No?
Is the complainant present? Would you like to make a statement? Also, just heads up, you don't have to reveal any part of your identity or anything like that, or even if you want to be off camera, that's up to you, but it's your prerogative.
I have a few questions.
Come on.
All right, first I want to just say thank you for your time and all of your efforts with this case, and to all of you for all the work you guys do with all the cases. I appreciate that time that you guys take. My first question is about the forensic kit. Do you know like the status of it now as far as like where it's being stored at?
I would have to refer to APD on that because I don't know how long they keep things for, but if there's someone there that can answer it, if not, I will find out and get back to you. But maybe somebody there knows the answer, how long they keep rape kits.
Yes, ma'am. I can't answer with a definitive timeline, and even if we did have one, I don't know the status of that specific kit, but that's something that we can certainly find out if that's information that you're interested in having.
Yeah, who can I follow up with?
I can
about
follow
that?
up. I can follow up with it, and then we can have Detective Dixon reach out to you about that.
Okay.
Or you can tell me too, and I can, if that's easier too, I can.
That works. Yeah, I'll just send the information to Julie.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The next one, I wanted to know is like the report that, like the final report of all of this, will I be able to receive a copy of it as far as like the findings from the CPRB?
Julie, I believe that was the question that you had sent earlier, am I correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So John and I will discuss, and you just want to receive a copy?
Yes.
Okay, we will discuss, and we'll figure out exactly what you can receive. We'll go right through Julie, so you'll get all this information all together. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, and if I do have more follow-up questions, should I reach out to Julie directly, or is there someone else that I can reach out to as well?
Julie, how do you feel about that? Would you rather her come through the CPRB, or are you comfortable with her coming straight to you?
I'm comfortable with her coming straight to me. We've been, there's been a lot of back and forth, a lot of follow-up, and a lot of explaining why things were taking so long. So we know each other at this point. So if you, Mom, are comfortable coming to me, that's fine.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and Julie, if you could just give us a kind of a final report so that we could go, so that we could place it right into the folder when everything is completed, if that's okay?
Did send one earlier today.
No, any additional information is what I'm saying. Yeah, and yeah, any additional information. I just want to let you know I'm sorry this occurred, first of all. Julie and I kind of spent the weekend together when she was coming up with the investigative report. This was really hard, you know. A lot of time was spent on this. I commend Julie and her team. John and I also, we had meetings about this, making sure that we presented this in the correct fashion to give you as much information as possible, okay? So like I say, I am sorry this happened. Is there anything additional before we go through the charges and anything? Is there anything else you had to ask?
No, if I think of something else, I will follow up with Julie. But I, again, want to just say thank you to all of you, and I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We're going to go through the charges now, okay?
Thank you.
All right, everyone. So first charge is call handling procedure. And the finding for that, we concur with OPS as not sustained. Do I have a second for the first charge?
Second.
Batman, second. All in favor, not sustained? All right. Second is general call handling procedures. This is, we concur with OPS, whereas exonerated. Do I get a second?
Hold on one second.
This was the time to interview the subject.
The time lapse? Okay. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Second for exonerated?
Second.
Chair Santos, second. All in favor? All right. Call handling, third charge, call handling procedure. This is we concur with OPS with not sustained. Second?
Second.
Santos, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Conduct standard, charge 4, one of several conduct standards. For this specific one, we concur with not sustained. Can I get a second?
Second.
Santos, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Fifth charge, also conduct standard. We disagree with OPS. We find this charge as sustained. Can I get a second for sustained?
Second.
Chair Santos, all in favor? Number 6, also with conduct standard, OPS found this as unfounded. Our investigators disagreed as a charge is sustained for charge 6. Can I get a second for sustained with regards to charge 6?
Second.
Emily, second. All in favor? All right, number 7, evidence and property handling procedure and security. OPS found not sustained. With this charge, we find, we disagree and find sustained. Do we have a second for sustained?
Second.
Chair Santos, all in favor? All right, and that concludes the charges for this complaint. Thank you, everyone. And just again, thank you, everyone at TNM, you and Marty and everyone. This was a very, very, very long process. We overcame some hurdles. We established some precedent for the board with regards of what we can find and discover and utilize within our investigations. So it was a tough go, but it was groundbreaking in a lot of ways. And I just want to thank you and your team and the patience with our complaint. With regards to this was a tough go, and from that, the only thing we have left is adjournment.
Hold on. Are there any other questions from the board? Anything, anybody like to make any statements? Everybody's good? Okay. All right. I'd like to adjourn tonight's meeting. Can I get a second?
Dr. V, second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.